We all know what we want out of Christmas dinner. At its best, it can be unimaginably joyous. I mean, there's no other word for it. But at its worst, it can be tear-inducing and fraught. But it's that rich panoply, the mixture of so many dishes, that makes it the feast it is. I love this meal. I love it far too much to risk anything going wrong. So I have devised my plan of action, and I use it year in, year out. And I'm not just enthusiastic, I am evangelical about it. My countdown begins on Christmas Eve with a bucket, several litres of cold water and the turkey. I bring tidings of comfort and joy, and this is the means by which I do it. It's not some elaborate Christmas parlour trick, or not quite. What it is the means by which you need never ever worry about having a dried up turkey again. It is a miracle bath, a spice bath, starting off with that wonderfully Christmas spice, the clove, some caraway seed, gorgeous amounts of caraway, the warmth of star anise, mustard seeds, just a little bit of heat of a different sort, some allspice berries. These are wonderful. You can see, to throw everything with abandon, how can that be anything other than beautiful? And some cinnamon, gorgeous Christmassy scent and fabulous warmth from the cinnamon. And so that's the spices, quite a lot of them, but they need help to ooze their way into the turkey. This is not a marinade, this is a brine. Salt is what turns this into a liquid that will permeate the turkey, bringing all the spice with it and keeping everything moist while it cooks. Brine is not just salty liquid, it's sugary salty liquid. So a bit of sugar, but I don't want just sweetness, I want some taste with it. In particular, that gorgeous resiny depth of maple syrup. Onions, I think, are always the basic unit of savouriness in cooking, and you do need to add some here. You won't suddenly find you've got some strangely flavoured turkey which tastes of spices and onion. It doesn't. It just somehow gives it a bit more fullness. So it's not just the fact that it stays juicy, it's got a sort of wonderful fullness of taste. I think the same goes with ginger too. That great heat. Oranges too, very Christmassy. Just want to quarter this. Spritz the juice. It's also a flavour purveyor and a force for tenderisation. If you've got some parsley knocking about the kitchen, add that, and I always do. Some leaves, stalks and all. Everything provides its own scent. OK, so there we are. Fragrant bath water is ready. I'm now going to go and get the baby to pop in it. This liquid is not just spice water, it's a magical elixir. It's going to transform the turkey and it's going to be super juicy and gorgeously spiced. My fridge isn't large enough to fit the bucket in, so I leave it outside, securely covered. Next, it's time to set out my Christmas schedule. The best way of approaching this is to get a pad, a cup of tea, a pen, and start writing a list. Well, obviously tomorrow we do know that the turkey will have to go in the oven, be basted a bit, but that's fine, so we'll write that down. What I do every Christmas Day morning, I get started on the gravy, and this is an allspice gravy, and for me takes all the stress out of normal gravy making. No last minute tinkering about with baking tins on the hob. Tomorrow too, I want to do my perfect roast potatoes, and they really are the ne plus ultra of the potato world. There's my maple roast parsnips. These are more heavenly than you can believe, and luckily incredibly easy to make. I've also got to have tomorrow Brussels sprouts. When you need Brussels sprouts at Christmas, you have to. I cook them and then I toss them in butter, pancetta, chestnuts and marsala. And I have to say, Christmas Day would not be Christmas Day without the smell of bread sauce wafting through the house. It's my mother's bread sauce and I make it year in, year out. So right now, that leaves me not much to do, all of it pleasurable. I've got the Lawsonian staple, rum butter, has to be. I've got the work of moments with my redder than red cranberry sauce. But first of all, I want to start off with the gingerbread stuffing. And to get cracking on that, I do no more than get a few onions, a couple of apples, peel them, quarter them, blitz them in the processor, and then cook them gently in a pan with a bit of butter and olive oil. This gingerbread stuffing is so full-bodied, so full-flavoured that yes, you can certainly stuff the turkey with it, but it really can hold its own if you just shove it into a baking dish and slip it into the oven alongside the turkey tomorrow. The onions and apples, now gorgeous and buttery, are soft and completely cooked. So I'm going to get on with the bacon. And the bacon here with its saltiness is so good against the sweet sharp apples and those savoury onions. A lot of bacon here. Many times when you read a recipe for stuffing, it says belly pork. I find using streaky bacon, don't use back bacon, works just as well. So blitz this until it's a pink pulp. Right, it's going to be quite full with all the bacon in, so you probably need to make this a 2 spatula job and turn slowly and patiently. And if I can do that, anyone can. Don't expect the bacon to crisp up or even colour. It'll stay pink. You just want it to be cooked through a bit. To boost the Christmas flavour here by zesting a clementine in. For no culinary reason, but just because I don't want to burn my hands, I'm going to let this cool a bit while I get on with crumbling the gingerbread. This announces itself on the packet as ginger cake, but I call it gingerbread, and no doubt you call it gingerbread too. And I have to say, this came to me one moment. Just shows if you're a food obsessive, every moment is useful. I was thinking about how to stuff the turkey, and I thought, well, since stuffing is always made with breadcrumbs, why did I have to use normal bread? Why couldn't I use, say, gingerbread? So of course I tried it, and I am a complete convert. Turkey has got a delicate flavour, and that's one of the things I love about it. But for that reason, it really works well with a robust stuffing with such punch. I've got the first loaf crumbled. I'm now going to start mixing the gingerbread in with the bacon, onion and apple. In this goes. Most of it in the bowl. Right. I'm going to crumble this in too. It's a gorgeous smell. Because this bowl is pretty full, I have to say the easiest way to mix is by hand. This is very therapeutic and very pleasing. And I'm done. This is cooked, it's mixed. I'll put it in the fridge and then it'll be ready to go in the oven tomorrow. It's not just children who love rituals at Christmas. You know, I have to say that I, as the family cook, really love them as well. I know where I stand, and obviously, it stands to reason that a lot of my rituals are traditions I've inherited from my mother. Now, in some sense, I've gone in for a bit of sort of daughterly naughtiness and disobedience because my mother always had cranberry sauce out of a jar. But I would certainly say that for me, a Christmas Eve ritual is making cranberry sauce. All you need to do is get a pan, a packet of cranberries, empty the cranberries into the pan, add a snow of sugar, a splash of water, and a really glorious glug of cherry brandy. Then put the heat on, and when the cranberries start boiling, they will start popping. And then when they've all virtually popped, decant into a bowl, and you'll see that although they're cooked, it's slightly runny. The minute the sauce is cold, because there's so much pectin in cranberries, it will be set. My mother always made her brandy butter on Christmas Eve, and although I still adhere to the ritual, I deviate from tradition a little, another little act of filial rebelliousness, in that I use rum instead of brandy. I mean, this is another incredibly simple recipe. It's just a matter of beating butter with some icing sugar, some of the ground almonds, and then a splash or two or three of rum. Just leave it somewhere cool until tomorrow. Avoid the temptation to plunge in it straight away. And that's the thing, you see, I love that sense of getting ready for Christmas. I'd be so happy to spend the rest of the day pottering about in the kitchen, but I've done everything I need to do. That's it till tomorrow now. Right, let's get to it. Got my bowl of Christmas gravy cheer, but first I'm going to release the turkey from its briny bath. And yes, I did get these in my Christmas stocking. Wow, it looks like something from Creatures of the Deep. Okay, I'm going to wrestle with this. Oh, it is freezing. Bit of an eraser head moment here. Look, I know it's not pretty, well, not at this stage, but it's going to taste fabulous. So if I leave the turkey to sit and get to room temperature, I am going to get on with the allspice gravy. There's water there, salt. Now this allspice gravy in fact has many flavours, and all of them build together to make this kind of very rounded and gorgeous. Celery, never to be underestimated in cooking. Onion, leave the skins on, the colour will help. Carrots, wonderfully sweet. A bit of cinnamon. Bay leaves. And here are the allspice berries and some peppercorns. Now yesterday I used the zest of this clementine in the stuffing, and now I'm going to get the juice. Get a bit of pulp as well. The more the merrier. So this does taste of turkey as well. You need the turkey giblets, or failing that, the turkey neck. So viewers of a sensitive disposition, look away now. And without any more ado, lid on, heat on, and this needs to simmer now for about 2 hours, and I suppose I ought to go and get dressed. Now is the perfect time to get all the vegetables done, and actually don't dread it, because I love this part. It's quite relaxed, a bit of mindless repetitive activity which creates actually a feeling of calm. I've peeled the parsnips and I've cut them into rather fine twig-like shapes and put them in the foil roasting dish. The reason why I've done them quite thin is because I don't want to parboil them, and I really want to make sure that they cook inside before they burn on the outside. And I actually am going to roast them in that, because I think Christmas is made an awful lot easier if you use throwaway foil roasting dishes rather than ones you have to scrub for hours afterwards. Now the sprouts. I prepare in exactly the same way I remember year in, year out my mother doing, making like a cross incision here just to help them cook more evenly. I just do them anyway because my mother did. But the way I cut my potatoes, now that is my patented method for creating the perfect roast potatoes. So I imagine this in a way as if it's going to be cut into a triangle in the middle. So I go like that there, and I create the triangle, and then I have 3 pieces with maximum amount of cut sides, and it's these cut sides that make all that crunch and crispness. I also think that it's better to give someone 6 small roast potatoes than 2 large ones. Anyway, I know I'm right, so I'm just going to carry on. Time to parboil the potatoes, which simply means letting them come to a bubble in their salted water and then boil away for 4 minutes before draining them. And I am going to get on with the turkey. Although the brine makes the turkey fabulously juicy, it does keep it a bit wet. I mean, I've dried it, but it's still a bit wet. So to help the skin crisp up, I am going to melt some butter with some maple syrup. And although I always refer to this as a basting liquid, because I do sort of baste with it, it's really a bronzing liquid, just to make sure the skin gets lovely and brown. For a 4 to 5 kilo bird, I reckon on about 2.5 hours. That'll be perfect. I love this bit, when everything is just beginning to come together, and it gives me kind of prickle of excitement. I feel that I'm almost there. Anyway, may as well relish it now, because it's certainly going to get a bit manic later. Not that there's that much to do, really, and I've already got the bread sauce in hand, and it's so simple to do, much simpler, really, than you'd ever think. All you need to do is pour some milk into a pan, and into the milk throw an onion that's been peeled and quartered, each quarter studded with 1 clove. Add a blade of mace, a few bay leaves, some peppercorns and a scattering of salt. Let all these flavours infuse over heat for a short time, and then dig out the onion and crumble in a stalish white loaf, crusts off and sliced. Grate over some fresh nutmeg, stir for a while until all the bread has absorbed the milk, and take it off the heat for a while with the lid clamped on. Another thing almost crossed off my checklist is the gingerbread stuffing. All that needs to be done there now is to beat 2 eggs into it, wadge it into tureen and pop it in the oven. And this can cook on a rack under the turkey for around an hour. I am about to pass on wisdom for which you will be eternally grateful, or you will be if there's any justice in the world. This is my recipe for the perfect roast potato. These have been parboiled, but instead of dredging them in flour, as is the usual practice, I dredged them, and all the women of my mother's family dredged them, in semolina. And there's a sweetness to semolina and a slight graininess that makes them incredibly crunchy. Bit of a workout to burn off the calories I will replace with the potatoes later. But if this is one important factor, the other equally important factor is that the oil or fat you fry them in must be ferociously hot. Now the fat is goose fat, and the reason it's so good is because it has a very high smoking point, which means you can get it incredibly hot and it won't make the whole room smell acrid and horrible. Plus, it's rather high in omega fatty acids. So I'm telling you now that these roast potatoes are a health food. Don't panic if you've just got one oven and therefore you can't get the potatoes in a really hot oven, because you can just take the turkey out, tent it in foil, whop the heat up to high, and then roast the potatoes, take about 45 minutes, and a turkey will sit covered like that fine. I just have to hear a potato sizzling in the pan and I start to salivate. The oven's on max, so I feel we're just 45 minutes away from roast potato heaven. Much as I relish the chaos and commotion of Christmas, I do think it's important before it all kicks off to snatch a quiet moment so you can go over what you've done, what needs to be done. And I've come to the conclusion that in order to stave off panic, you need to prioritise. So for me, I would so much rather buy a Christmas pudding and make my own rum butter. And all you need to do is put the pudding in a steamer or a saucepan, and all that steam coming out is so welcoming, it doesn't matter that you haven't made it yourself. And I've given up parboiling the parsnips. All I do is peel them and cut them small enough so I can just smoosh them around in a tin with some maple syrup and vegetable oil, and then 35 minutes or so in an oven, and they are gorgeous. Happy Christmas. I think everyone should be smiling. Hungry, aren't you? I know that sprouts are so often regarded as some sort of Christmas joke, but I have to say there's no joke about these. They are seriously good, more than good. A bit different, but not so different that you're shocked. I'll start off with a bit of oil in my special Christmas decanter. You don't need too much oil because what's going in next, some cut up bits of pancetta. It's bacon really, or lardo you can get from the supermarket. I love sprouts with chestnuts, and I didn't think it was possible to improve on that until I added, to match the sweetness of chestnuts, the saltiness, intense, gorgeous, savoury saltiness of bacon. There is no turning back once you've done that. And now, a little bit of butter. Because I think chestnuts taste best when they've been softened in butter. I mean, the fact that you're not having to cook and peel your own really makes life easier. These have been vacuum packed. Now, this is the bit that brings the saltiness of the pancetta and the sweetness of the chestnuts together. A good splosh of marsala. And now, sprouts still warm. I didn't cook these for very long, about 5 minutes, because a sprout that is still nutty is immensely good, and a sprout that is blousy and waterlogged is inedible. I've got a lot of parsley, and actually I'm not using this as a garnish, it's really almost as another vegetable in with the sprouts. Leave some for later, but a huge amount on now. The glorious thing about cooking sprouts this way is that I think they taste better if you sit them in the pan and clamp on a lid. All the taste, the salt of the bacon, the sweetness of the chestnuts will ooze in.
And while the sprouts sit there infusing, it gives me a chance to grab a quick snifter.
I like to get the turkey out of the oven before everyone's absolutely clamouring to sit down at the table and eat. It makes it taste better if it can sit and rest for a while, and besides, it gives me time to do all my bits of finishing touches. To complete the gravy, all I do is put a couple of spoonfuls of flour in a saucepan and whisk in the pan juices from the turkey. And my hot allspice stock has been simmering away for a while now, so I just whisk it in and the gravy's done. Because I like a mood of abundance and plenty to dominate, I get out a vast platter, and on one end I tumble out my maple roast parsnips, and the rest I clatteringly fill up with my cartoon crunchy roast potatoes. You could serve the bread sauce just as it is and it would be really good, but it is unspeakably fabulous if you warm it up slightly, add in a knob of butter and a dollop of cream. The Brussels sprouts really need no further tweaking, although I do like to have a little scattering of freshly chopped parsley if I can.
The gingerbread stuffing I serve more or less straight from the oven.
And then the final moment of glory awaits, and that is the triumphant bringing out of the turkey. Okay, folks, can you carve? I'm going to get you.
So beautiful.
Oh,
That is great.
I've got more to come. Now this is why Fanny Craddock always used vodka when she was flambeing at the Albert Hall. She could make this burn for 11 minutes. That was her record. Always use vodka with Christmas pudding.
I agree.
Yeah.
She was something.
She really was.